Hello my astrology friends, this is Lada from AstroLada.com and these are your June 2022 video horoscopes. By the way, I have two channels now. One is Lada Duncheva, the other one is AstroLada. Follow me on both because we'll have slightly different content in both of them and with a lot of focus on my own videos. It will be something like an astrology library that we create for all important combinations. Okay. 2022 June is one of the positive months in my astrology book because first of all we're going to have something very rare. 4 of the 7 traditional planets will be in their own sign. Venus in Taurus, Mercury in Gemini, Mars in Aries and Saturn in Aquarius. When a planet goes into its own sign, it's like the king returns to its kingdom and is able to take better care of its kingdom and to fulfill the manifestation. So in 4 areas of your life, you're going to be able to manifest something that is what is promised in your horoscope in a positive way. A king usually doesn't want to hurt its kingdom. It just wants to help it. And then we have no major difficult configurations, eclipses and anything like that. Actually, Mercury is turning direct, good news, and Saturn is turning retrograde. These are the 2 major events. We'll speak about each of them. Thank you so much and excited. Let's begin. Aries, June 2022, if your sun, moon or rising is in Aries. The big news is that Mars, the planet that rules you, is in your sign the whole month. It's going to take care of you. When the planet that rules you is in your sign, it's like you awaken, you get activated. You become more powerful, more determined. All the Aries qualities that sometimes even we as Aries don't feel like doing, initiative, energetic. Now you'll be full of that, and it's a great time to start new beginnings. It's a great time to even start some workout routine. You can even lose weight sometimes, and you become more fearless to cope with difficulties. So that's the other side of Mars in our own signs. Some difficulties can arise, some stressful situations, but you handle them like a pro because you're an Aries and Mars is there. And as well, you can also, Mars can be great to initiate something you've been fearful about to do, to be much more active. You'll find yourself more busy doing things active if your sun is in Aries, in your career front, if your moon is in Aries, in your family front with relationships. Sometimes it can get a bit more feisty though, you can get a bit more argumentative with people, but you're trying to stand your ground. And if your ascendant is in Aries, you're initiative in many areas of your life. So that's good, one good thing. And Mars is not doing any difficult aspects, so I think predominantly it will be very positive for us to feel more vital, alive, full of new life, so to speak. The other big news is that in June the 3rd, Mercury is turning direct gradually. So the first week of the month, you can notice that certain situation in your life, it's in your 2nd house, especially connected to finances, to money, to resources, is starting to turn direction. Because when Mercury is turning direct, it's having a difficult aspect with Saturn. So a difficult situation connected especially to money, to resources, to self-worth might escalate but start getting resolved after that. And by the 10th of June, Mercury is doing a lot of nice aspects after that. So even if there was a complicated situation in communications, communicating about resources or what is your own values, and even if there was some tension there, it will be resolved in a positive way, in an empowering way. Then June 4th, at the same time that Mercury is turning retrograde direct, Saturn is turning retrograde. And it will be retrograde for around 4 or 5 months, the whole summer and part of the autumn. But it's in its own sign. So when a planet is in its own sign, again, it wants to make the best of whatever that energy is in our horoscope. And for us Aries, it's in the 11th house. So there can be some final, I would say, because it's the last time Saturn will be retrograde in our 11th house, final retrospection about friendships, about which people you want to keep in your life, about your public contacts, reevaluation maybe, who is to keep, what social media accounts, or, because 11th house is all our connectivity and networks, whether it's your business network, whether it's your personal network, your peers, the people you communicate in your, like colleagues and friends and or people just online. So there is some kind of reassessment that's been happening for 2 years there. What is your tribe? Who is your tribe? Who is there? So there can be some final starting from June for a few months, reevaluation and becoming very clear, putting the right boundaries, who you want to let in your life, who are the people that are, and because Saturn represents the death with the sky. So you're like doing maybe some kind of final reevaluation, who to leave and who is not toxic. And that can mean eliminating certain people, certain social media platform, certain contacts. 11th house can also to do with followers, with your business clients, for example. It's on all social levels. So you might really streamline that. You might want to focus on the most productive such relationships, on the most business profitable and mutually beneficial, and remove the dead wood, so to speak, from such interactions and such clientele. And it's funny, me being an Aries with Saturn going retrograde, I'm really revisioning my YouTube channels, for example, my networking and what people I want to reach. And I'll be doing that over the next 5 months. And I want to narrow it. Less is more with Saturn, but more quality. People that are really into what I'm doing and into who can really benefit. So I'm just giving you an example for my life so you can see how it works. But it can be on a personal level as well. It can also be some kind of reevaluation and working hard over the next 5 months to change something regarding your gains and income and earning, which is another thing of the 11th house. Restructuring it, Saturn has this. But again, with the ultimate goal that after this retrograde period, it will give you longer lasting and more secure and long-term gains, rewards. You can even do something where you restrict a little bit the inflow of cash, hopefully willfully, with your own desire, that the cash flow of income might be restricted, but hopefully with a bigger goal and purpose for the future, like you're redoing something there. Okay. That's on one level, and 11th house is also your long-term goals and wishes, so you can rework some of those things. Plus, some old friends from the past might come back to you over the next 5 months. You can be much more involved, communicating and getting involved with such people, and with some old-term projects and goals, completing it, editing it, fixing it, bringing it to reality, removing what's unnecessary there. All right, and then around June the 30th, Mercury moves into your third house. So your communications will speed up. Any kind of complications that happen during the Mercury retrograde in your third house connected to contacts, communications, writing, speaking, documents, papers, will be restored, will be improved during that period. Maybe if you did some revision of your contacts as well, of your correspondence, if there were some hitches or problems, they'll be restored and improved. Can be a good time for short travels, traveling to and fro a lot, meeting a lot of people, communicating with them. Again, both Mercury and Saturn activated communications and social houses for you. In one way, with Saturn, you're being more cautious and trying to keep more quality in your communications. With Mercury, you're allowing yourself to be also more engaged, more interested, more curious. Learning something new is a possibility as well when Mercury is in the third house. Inflow of information, contact starts happening from June the 13th. Then June the 14th is the full moon that will affect you till the end of the month, is in Sagittarius. For us, Aries, Sagittarius is our 9th house. There will be a focus on this 9th house. For some of you, it can be a possibility to travel abroad in the last 2 weeks of June. For others, it can be a possibility to complete some, because full moons are about completion, seeing results, about some teaching projects or learning projects or educational degree, or some course that you take and you're excited about, or some self-knowledge. 9th house is self-growth, self-improvement, self-knowledge. expansion of your horizons through learning some teachings or knowledge or practice or inspirational figure that appears in your life that clarifies the subjects for you, and you have an aha moment of realization and clarity about your future, about future trends as well. So expect the last 2 weeks to be very positive under the influence of your 9th house in Sagittarius, with a higher perspective that you gain about an existing situation and problem, and possibly even resolving it, possibility for learning, for traveling, for a positive conclusion of some legal case and papers, or relocation to foreign places, or legalization of foreign residence, and so on. And from around June the 11th till the 19th, Venus is doing a few difficult aspects from your 2nd house, where you know, with Uranus, with the North Node, with Saturn, you might try to first take some reckless steps with finances, or some expenses that come, or some new opportunities that you get excited about. But at the same time, there might be some obstacles there because of Saturn square, or reality might quickly clip your wings regarding matters with finances, with money. But from June the 19th onwards, Venus starts making good aspects. And of course, Venus rules your relationships house. So around the 11th till the 19th, there might be certain shakeups in your relationships, certain new things that appear, but then disappointment possible, or reevaluation. And then it gets very smooth after the 19th, 20th, and Venus enters your 3rd house from the 23rd. So it improves your communications furthermore, makes them more pleasant, more enjoyable as well. And wonderful time to buy new laptops or devices for communication, to start websites and so on. So you see, nothing life-shattering, nothing too extreme. Hope this month flows positive for you, and thank you. Taurus, Sun, Moon, Rising, June 2022. Taurus, the big news is that Venus is still in your sign and will continue to be there till June the 23rd. So it empowers you. When the planet that rules you is in your sign, you really kind of get more life force, more enthusiasm, more energy. You become more like yourself. Of course, Venus in your sign can make you more attractive. Can be great for any beautifying routines and regimes. Can improve relationships and your magnetism. You're more magnetic. It's great time to start new things as well when the planet that rules you is in your sign, especially around 11th till 15th. Venus will conjunct 2 planets of new energy, Uranus and the North Node. And it can get a bit crazy and exciting around that time, where something very new appears in your life, and that you feel very passionate, excited about. You didn't expect it, it came out of the blue. Then Venus makes a square around the 18th, 19th of June with Saturn. There might be some disappointment around that time, or you have to put more effort into something if that new thing came to make it happen. But then Venus starts making good aspects after the 19th, so things get resolved positively. But let's start day by day. June the 3rd, Mercury turns direct in your sign, in Taurus. It's the last degrees of Taurus. So Mercury turning direct will help you, especially the first week. You'll start seeing that something is escalating, because Mercury squares Saturn. There's still some difficulty there. Things are still going slow. Things still feel a little bit blocked, but it escalates and it starts getting resolved. And by the end of the first week, the beginning of the second week of June, you'll start feeling like you can breathe easier. Some problem is resolved in your life, especially involving communication, writing, speaking, relationships with people, even financial matters, because Mercury rules your 2nd house, and even love matters, because Mercury rules your 5th house, or some creative project or problems with children that you've been having. They get resolved, they start moving forward. If something was delayed with creative problems, with money, with finances, or with romantic relationships, it improves and starts moving forward. Or if any problems involving Mercury, like papers, documents, negotiations, business, social media accounts, credit cards, Mercury rules so many things. They will start first. They might be a final push around the moment it goes direct, but then things turn really smoothly a week or 10 days into June in such matters. At the same time, when Mercury is turning direct, Saturn is turning retrograde around the 4th of June in your 10th house, Taurus. And that will last for around 4 or 5 months. So it can be a time when you feel like things slow down in regards to your career, in regards to your ambitions and worldly responsibilities. And it's like reorientation process the first 15 days of June, because the direction is changing there, the wind is changing. Some of you might start reevaluating the direction of their career, reevaluating certain job or project and need to rework it or edit it, and it might take quite a few months actually. Others might feel a dissatisfaction starting to grow in a certain area of career or in certain aspect of their career, especially in the structural aspect of business or with bosses, with institutions, with authority figures that need to be reworked on and reorganized and done more efficient, and overcomplicated things removed and streamlined, such processes of structure, of order, organization. For others, it can indicate going back to some career project or going back to an old career, or if you're working already on some project, it might start becoming a bit more complicated, so you have to fix certain things, improve it over a few months. There might be some delays, there might be some frustrations that you're like, it's not going how I want, but it will be reworked to a better level because Saturn is in its own sign, and usually you'd see this final result of some career project or something connected with your reputation or your social status, sometimes even connected to marriage overall. 10th house can be also that, will be restructured, reorganized with some extra attention and focus without rushing, slowly, over the next few months, starting from June now, till something much better comes out, something that is more sustainable long term. It might be kind of more, smaller in size, or but more efficient, more focused, more better organized, more professional, so, and it might require you more focus and harder work in those areas as well. Then another level is then Mercury moves to your second house on June the 13th, and you will be, Mercury moves from your sign to the second house. So your mind and a lot of communication can happen around resources, finances. You might become more interested in reading about food, about money, about investments and doing such things. Mercury is doing good aspects there, so these are good things to do. You might do some traveling, gourmet traveling. Second house is to eat, Mercury is to travel. And it's in its own sign, so it tends to have positive effect, Mercury, from June the 30th on your finances. To organize the Mercuries, to put order, to experiment, to learn something new, to research something new about finances, resources, assets, anything tangible that you use. Then June the 14th, there is a full moon in Sagittarius, your 7th house, your 8th house, Tauruses. Here it is. There'll be a full moon there for considerable time, about 2 weeks from that full moon till the end of the month. They might be focused on taxes, maybe completing something connected to taxes, maybe insurances. For some of you, mutual finances and resources. If you've been trying to gain access to other people's resources or clients' resources, you can see the results of something you've started in the past. You can get rewarded for that. If you're expecting some support, mental, financial, emotional from outside, something that you already know about, you've been expecting, it can come to you from that period on. And you can have some very deep psychological realizations about secrets that come to the surface that kind of liberate you almost. 8th house is the moksha house of liberation, that release you from something. And you might have some very deep encounters or conversations or emotional connections on a more intimate level, on a more discussing more deeper matters, letting someone in on a deeper level as well, or realizing something very profound. We might have some breakthroughs with a psychologist, hypnosis, or astrologer. 8th house rules all such practices that give you answers to deep questions from the subconscious, some deep realizations there. Okay, and then Around June 11th, 19th, we talked about what Venus is doing, some kind of new things. Venus with Uranus. Uranus is another ruler of your 10th house. Something new in regards to your career can appear. Rahu there, something exciting. You might feel around those periods, Uranus, Rahu, as a Venus person, quite overly excited, quite passionate as well. Uranus is erotic energy as well, Rahu is as well. But then because Saturn squares Venus as well, there might be some kind of a break that appears after that to kind of, wake you up a little bit. And it's not only about erotic or relationships, it's getting excited about something new, but then some snag appears, like I said, Saturn, that you have to reevaluate, and then things improve. And then Venus, your planet, moves into Gemini in the 2nd house from the 23rd of June, where it can improve your finances, resources, enjoyment of pleasant 5 senses experiences of all sorts. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this month. Gemini, Sun, Moon, Rising, June. Well, the month started with the new moon in your sign on the star Aldebaran, which is a very positive star for powerful beginnings that can enrich you, empower you, even for wealth, So I would say take advantage of these energies over the next 2 weeks till the middle of June. Spread your wings, you're coming out, you're becoming more empowered, you feel stronger. You feel like a rebirth of some sorts when there is a new moon in your sign. New ideas will come, write them down, maybe even try and act on them as well. The month starts with your planet turning direct, which is great news. Turning direct in the 12th house. In Taurus, square Saturn. So the first week will still be a bit hard. It will still feel a slow start of things. Because Mercury is all the time square Saturn. Maybe the first 7 days to 10 days at most, you might still feel certain blockages that you're resolving, but there you're removing them slowly, or there might be some slowing down and slowly going through some issues that you're resolving. And if there were some complications, especially in regards to your health, for example, because Mercury rules it, they start gradually removing themselves after the first part of the month. Or if there were some complications connected to this 12th house, well, Mercury was retrograde and is turning direct, like expenses, like secrets, like losing something, like some loss, like some hidden private things that are happening, foreign things to do with faraway places, or some fears as well. The 12th house can be fears or psychological kind of negativity. It starts getting resolved and starts improving all such matters after the first week, I would say, of June. And then your planet starts moving direct and you start feeling more and more freer, positive, and actually Mercury will enter your sign from June the 30th, and you'd feel even more empowered. The sun is still in your sign, and when the planet that rules your sign, Mercury, enters your sign, you'd feel more like yourself, more versatile, more communicative. You can start some new beginnings again. You can have increased communication flow. Some short trips can appear, more contacts, information, meetings with people, talking, writing, speaking, starting projects connected to business, to writing, to speaking, to bringing out some information. If you have important conversations, do them when Mercury enters your sign after June the 30th. They'll go very well. And you can feel, so to speak, lighter, breezier like yourself. On June the 4th, when Mercury is turning direct, Saturn at the same time is turning retrograde. And will be retrograde for 4 or 5 months. That's happening in your 9th house. But Saturn will be in its own sign, which is a good thing. So you'll be reevaluating, possibly for the last time, anything concerning your belief system, and removing, and it's been happening for the last 2 years. Saturn has gone retrograde in your 9th house twice before already for the last 2 years, and that's the 3rd time. So maybe there was some kind of a harsh existential crisis that you've been going through, or that it can happen now, about your belief system crumbling and you restructuring it to be more realistic, more practical, certain idealistic, utopic things can be reworked more practically. It's like a maturation of the mind, the thinking of the higher mind. Sometimes people can feel a bit more doubtful when Saturn goes retrograde in their ninth house about their future. They're reworking, you might be reworking, reorganizing the plan for your future. For some of you, it can just mean extra hard work on some educational matter that you've already started, and that you dig deep into it, and it's required to really put a lot of effort. Retrograde planet requires like 3 times more effort. Things move slower there, but the final results will be fantastic of pre-qualifying, for example, changing something with your education, higher knowledge, or some course or classes that you're taking. Others might be working extra hard on some educational project like teaching. Others might be deciding to be changing their teachers, revising that and changing the directions of their studies, while others might be there to complete some course of studies or course of teaching. You might be one who is teaching, or course of, you might want to dig deep and counsel with a more practical mentor and advisor, ninth house rules, such people that are like teachers, like life coaches, to help you reorganize the plan for your future. That might be a good thing to do while Saturn is retrograde there. Or you can dig deep with some old educational project, higher knowledge or learning, or some of you might be revisiting old countries or foreign places that they wanted to go to. Some might be going back to old belief systems or restructuring existing ones, and so on. But overall, it will allow you by the end of this process to be more realistic. Some of you might be working on some relocation papers or to foreign countries, visas, and so on, that will require extra hard work starting from June. And then there is a full moon, Gemini, in your 7th house on June the 14th. And the next 2 weeks will be a lot of focus on relationships as well. Something will culminate in a relationship, maybe taking a relationship to the next stage, or maybe relationship, something escalating and becoming requiring your more attention about the business deal, about agreement of some sort, maybe completing some agreement and contract finally, or seeing the results on some deal you'll be working with someone, or seeing the results of some project you'll be working with another person, or some project that's directed to publicity, to other people, to reaching out to other people. Sometimes it can be some escalation of a personal relationship, hopefully for the better, your personal chart will determine that. So there is this attention towards the middle of the month, more not towards you and your new beginnings, which are powerful this month, but to others, but seeing results of previous actions already. Around June 11th to 19th, Venus is doing a few difficult aspects, 11th to 19th, in the 12th house. For you, that can be some exciting journeys to foreign places. The aspects are with unstable planets, Uranus, Rahu. You might be meeting someone privately from foreign places, or secretly, even something new can appear, some new interest romantically that is excitable, but then Saturn squares Venus within this period of 1 week, and there is some kind of an obstacle, some disappointment that can appear as well. On another level, 12th house can be expenses. You might be spending a little bit more for something, for some indulgence or some vice, hidden vice. The 12th house rules that. And then you kind of rein it in when Saturn squares Venus, but then Venus starts making good aspects after the 19th, so things improve there. And of course, on the 19th of June, great news for you. Venus enters your sign or will stay there till the end of the month and part of July. When Venus is in one sign, one feels more chill, more cool, more zen, let's say. They feel more relaxed, more positive, and things start happening easier for you. Plus, you become more attractive. Venus just finished transiting my first house, and I feel kind of like became rounder a little bit. Venus can round the shapes, but make you more attractive as well. You can beautify things around you, your environment. Love can be more easily accessible. The pleasures of life, very pleasant communications with others, because Venus is a social planet. And you become like socially silver-tongued, as they say. And you can gain more associates or help just by your magnetism and your charm after that period. And if you want to do anything that is enjoyable, do it when Venus enters the 9th house. Go on a nice day, go on a nice holiday where because Venus rules the 12th house, brings it into you. And even romantic, it rules your 5th house of romanticism, having fun, and coming into your first house. You can bring you pleasant experiences connected with either private pleasures, 12th house, foreign places, faraway trips, or creative projects, 5th house, with children or romantic partners. All those things that Venus rules. So thank you so much and enjoy this month, guys. Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, June 2022. Cancer, what can I say? Mercury starts turning direct in your 11th house on June the 3rd. And because Mercury is square Saturn, a difficult planet, while it's turning direct, the first week can still be a bit complicated. And things can be a bit slow, especially in regards to gains, because Mercury is turning direct in your 11th house, in regards to friendships, in regards to business matters, in regards to social networking. There might be still some culling happening there, revising your contacts, who you want in your circle, what information you want to come to you through social media sources as well. And if there's some delays with business, with matters regarding friendships and long-term goals of some sort, they start getting resolved or income as well. They start getting resolved after the first week of June. Then at the same time that Mercury is turning direct, Saturn is turning retrograde in your 8th house. This has happened 2 times in the last 2 years. Saturn turns retrograde for around 4 or 5 months. So that will be a long influence for 5 months. And that's the last time I think Saturn turns direct in your 8th house. And that's kind of like digging deep again into your subconscious. And you can notice things slowing down a little bit and starting to reevaluate matters of relationships, because Saturn rules your 7th house. Saturn of intimacy, Saturn is in the 8th house. Reevaluating some old experiences and old hurts possibly that closed you to trusting others, that closed you to allowing yourself close contact with others. Certain fears, 8th house is very much connected about deep fears, and the ultimate fear is fear of death. The 8th house rules those things, but there are also fears of abandonment, of rejection, you know, especially connected to more intimate or personal relationships with others. And you will be reconsidering such topics, digging deep, maybe, you know, chewing them over in your mind, especially strongly now during the retrograde, the initial phases of the retrograde. Some of you can really dig deep into your psychological subconscious over the next few months, starting now, and have slow, not immediate results, but slow release of toxic energy. And I say the 8th house is like our shadow side, so kind of battling with your inner demons and shadow side and fears and anything that kind of has more power and control over you. Is it an obsession? Is it specific fear? Is it a person in particular? Something that you're fearful around, that you're or subject, not only a person, and you're struggling with, and you're dealing with and digging deep, maybe working with a good psychologist or an occultist or an astrologer or energy worker and healer, can give but slow results. It's not going to be immediate. Plus 8th house is penetrating into other having like sudden healings. These are slowed down with Saturn. They've been slowed down for the last 2 years. But when Saturn starts moving direct, and by the beginning of next year moves into your 9th house, you can have like some really deep healing and some really big overcoming of trauma and a fear and an obsession of some sort and a psychological blockage. But even if you think it's progressing very slowly now, don't worry. Saturn is doing a deep cleaning that even you might not be aware clearly, consciously by. Saturn is the deep cleaning that is happening. And Saturn cleans in tiny small pieces, so you might not feel immediate relief and detachment from something that has control over you, but the process is continuing for the next 5 months, especially intensely. And 8th house wants to allow you to detach from things that are holding you slave, holding you a captive almost of yourself or of outer external experiences. Plus, it can mean deepening of matters regarding reworking something regarding your mutual finances and resources with your partner, rebudgeting, changing the budgeting plan if you have a business partner in partnership with someone, reorganizing the finances regarding to how you, and streamlining it and making it more efficient, more simple, more organized, your mutual finance, but also limiting. You might, hopefully you do it yourself, that you limit your own finances, your own spending, your own mutual finance and spending with a partner, and rebudget a business partner, personal partner, business venture, because 8th house has direct connection to clients' money, for example, and it might be limited in some way, but at the same time you do a better job by restructuring it there to make it more functional, better organized. Or you might be dealing with issues regarding, and of course when Saturn is in a financial house, finances can be a little bit restrictive. Maybe you're saving together with a partner to buy a property, or maybe you're saving together with a business partner to do something with the business, or maybe it's an external limitation imposed on you. Maybe your partner's finances not as easy, are more in a more difficult spot, so that's affecting you as well in some way. So the retrograde period can intensify such matters, and on another level it can indicate working through some sexual blockages and digging deep into this. On another level, it can indicate working extra hard on taxes, restructuring there, dealing with some issues, trying to fix it, or insurances or inheritances, and such matters that require extra effort. That's Saturn retrograde. And approaching them from a different, approaching such matters from a different perspective. Saturn retrograde will give you a different perspective of anything connected to 8th house matters, to past traumas, to infidelities, to distrust in others, to intimacy, to mutual finance and resources, and so on. Then Mercury is moving into your 12th house around June the 14th. That can be good for some communications with foreign people, digging, reading more mysteries, finding out some secrets, reading about more spiritual topics, maybe even some trips to more unfamiliar places. Spending on Mercury things, books, knowledge, courses. But Mercury will be in its own sign, so it will be something that you're happy with. If you take a trip, for example, or establishing contacts with foreign people, faraway places, for example. But this will be positive because Mercury is in its own sign. In June the 14th, we have a full moon in your 6th house. You can find some escalation of a career matter. You see the results of some work project, for example, or you reach the rope. A full moon can be something coming to completion. Reach the rope of some job and you're ending it, completing it. 6th house can also ask you to pay attention to your health. Maybe to see the results of some health changes you've done in the past, or to see the results of unhealthy things that you've been doing, and it escalates and it triggers it for you. So be careful around the last 2 weeks with health in particular. You can have some awareness about and clarity. Full moon illuminates what you have to do in regards to some health routine, some health issue. But there is like a lot of energy put also at work and seeing results with that. And then Venus makes a series of aspects with Uranus and Rahu, which are new energies of new in your 11th house, around June the 11th, 19th. So new people can appear in your life, more exciting, especially friends in social environment. You can do some exciting networking, some exciting social connections, some exciting venues where many people gather with like-minded ideas. But then there is a little bit for some exciting new sources of income that can appear. 11th house also rules that you get, some excited new followers or clients, that you reach out to, but there might be also some snag that you meet there, some disappointment, because Saturn towards the end of this period, the 19th of June, squares Venus. But after that, Venus starts making only good aspects, so things improve quickly in that area. Or it might be like welcoming, opening yourself to new contacts while removing some old ones. And in your social environment, And then Venus moves into Gemini from June 23rd. Nothing dramatic, can be a wonderful time for pleasant excursions in foreign places, enjoying private pleasures, indulging more in hidden vices, spending on things like beauty, like indulging pleasures, fine wines, whatever. Maybe spending on a holiday in a faraway places. If you go to a foreign place when Venus is in your 12th house, from June 23rd till middle of July might be really enjoyable and pleasant. Even some secret romance can form, or just can be just kind of flow very nicely. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this month, Cancers. Leo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. The whole month Mars is really supporting you from your 9th house in its own sign, and it's bringing more vitality, fire into you, feeling inspired because it's the 9th house, feeling motivated, especially to explore new horizons, to be more adventurous, to do things that are, I don't know, like maybe take a trip foreign place. And because Mars is in its own sign, everything 9th house, everything that you're more adventurous with, will give you very positive results. I think you would enjoy it. Maybe take a more active trip to a foreign place where there's a lot of trekking, where you're more active and sporty. For other people, 9th house rules expanding your horizons through knowledge, initiating courses, teaching projects, learning projects, university degrees or classes and courses that you expand your self-knowledge or expand your horizons and faith in yourself and your potential overall. So fantastic time to do any of those things. Plus, it doesn't even have to be with 9th house things like traveling, higher knowledge. It can just mean that Mars is helping you if you're starting to initiate new things, to feel energetic. Doors will open easily, will flow. The efforts that you're making, physical exertion will feel even more pleasant, more enjoyable. And you can be very proactive in procuring connections with people in higher social classes or people with high social standing. 9th house rules that, or chasing after or going after contacts for import, export, or contacts from foreign countries as well. On another level, just be a bit more cautious because you'll be very preachy when Mars is in the 9th house. Very strongly opinionated about what's happening in the world. You might enter certain clashes because of very strong opinions, but at the same time, you sound very inspiring, very full of passion about your beliefs. If you want to excite other people and get them engaged into something that you're passionate about, this is fantastic time because Mars in the 9th house will help you be like so full of spark in regards what rocks your world, and others will be drawn into that as well. So very motivational. June the 3rd, Mercury is turning direct in your 10th house, but continues to be square Saturn for a few days. So the first week of June, you might feel still some complication regarding matters of career, work, with institutions, with authority figures, with father figures. There can be some tensions that are escalating, but starting to turn around, and certain delays or obstacles or complications regarding career or your future, or your some project with career, relationships with such people that I call authority or institutions will start getting resolved. And usually around the end of the first week of June, you'll start feeling things flowing there. And then if there was some complications in regards to your friendship, social circle, social media, which is the 11th house when Mercury was retrograde there, from the 13th of June, Mercury moves into your 11th house. So any complications in friendships, in gains and income, which is also what Mercury rules, if there were any delays, complications in anything connected to followers, anything connected to business tools for reach out to larger groups of people will be resolved, will start giving good results if you did the right changes. Funny enough, when Mercury went retrograde in my 11th house, now I'm a Leo, that's when my YouTube channel was kaput. The 11th house is very much social outreach, followers, YouTube channel, and I thought that's it, I'm done. But I did a new channel, AstroLada. I used the retrograde energy to restore old videos, and my old YouTube channel was restored. Hopefully I'll see the results now of reaching out more and more of you when Mercury moves direct from the middle of June on my 11th house for more gains, for more social outreach, for better business. So Mercury in its own sign hopefully will help you with such things, better business, better communications, more activity with friends, more communications with friends, with business associates, reaching out to client, marketing, business, great things for Mercury when it's in its own sign in your 11th house. All of those things will start feeling great from June the 13th. There's a full moon on June the 14th, guys. Oh, I forgot. Saturn is going retrograde. So Mercury turns direct. At the same time that Mercury turns direct, Saturn is going retrograde on June the 4th in your 7th house. It's done that twice already in the last 2 years. I think it's the last time for the next 30 years. So Saturn retrograde for the next 5 months from the beginning of June. You might feel like things slow down or become more distant in your relationships, or some kind of, there is a change starting to happen in your partner. It's not necessarily to be something bad also. But there might be some, because Saturn is a planet of distancing yourself from certain relationships, personal or business partnerships or collaborations, slowing things down so you can see things in a more slowed down, what's that called, like real, so you can be more detached and get a different perspective. So you might be reevaluating gradually, starting from now, certain business partnership, certain client relationships. You might be forced to do that, not because you want it, because external circumstances force it, but also narrowing your approach to your public, to your audience, or to your clients. 7th house is also connected to trading, to business, narrowing it, putting barriers, becoming more professional, putting more structure around that, learning when to say no to others, not only for business, in personal relationships as well. So you will learn to be more hardcore in relationships. You've been learning this lesson for a while now as a Leo, but now especially you learn when to say no to others, when enough is enough. And you might be also to put more secure structures around you when it comes to others, not giving a finger and then them taking the hand. In extreme cases, it can mean you encasing yourself in a wall and becoming lonelier and kind of not letting people in and having fears, and hopefully having to work through those fears in the next 5 months. And any problems, if there is consistent pattern of relationship issues in your life, a consistent pattern that you've met, you might become aware of it very clearly now with Saturn retrograde. What are you doing wrong? What fears are making you do that? And you can start reworking on that. And it's a very slow process. You don't see immediate results. The realization of something, and then every time you're doing the same mistake with a partner, in a partnership, so with others in your life overall, you start becoming aware of it more and more. So it might take around 5 months to kind of really integrate that new awareness into you, and you'll see the results when Saturn starts turning direct, how you have restructured and improved your relationships. But that might take a few hard decisions, like removing certain people from your life. So removing certain attitudes towards people, or changing a certain aspect of a very important relationship. For some of it can mean total reevaluation of a marriage or business partnership, and like the death with the sky that Saturn symbolizes, removing such people from your life. From others, it can mean reworking, putting extra effort to make that relationship more quality. With anything Saturn, it's not about the quantity of your relationships, it's about the quality, and that's what you're working. And at the end, you will be left with more stable relationships, or more clear rules in your relationships. The ones that are taking advantage, the ones that are not mutually useful for each other and productive, might be removed. Also, it can mean that your partner is becoming more Saturnian to some extent, with more resilience in them, or doing some hard project. You might have to support them, but it can make your relationships more distant, or that they're becoming more, or you and your partner might be doing something that requires a lot of your discipline together. 3 times more efforts of no power to say no to something, or that requires discipline and gradual step-by-step changing of some routine or working on some hard project together. And that's when you really kind of focus that energy together with the partner, or your partner is doing it, and that can affect the dynamic of the relationship. But you can do something really important and difficult over the next few months with partners, personal business, and you can see some change in your partner and in your relationship. All right, I think that's probably the most important thing. Venus will make a series of conjunctions around our full moon in your 5th house around June the 14th. So a few days before and after, there can be some pleasant party, fun, holiday. 5th house will those things. So some focus on children, and that can be a time for some of you to get pregnant. For some of you it can be, for some of you it can be some focus on romantic relationships, doing some dates and fun, or full moon is something coming to full fruition. So maybe some creative project, you see the realization of it, or maybe you end it and complete it, or some romantic aspect of your life you complete, or some, something that you're doing creatively gives results in some way. And then Venus is conjunct Uranus and the North Node in your 10th house. Something new can come around the 11th to 19th in regards to your career, something exciting, something connected to foreign, to exciting opportunities, but also there is effort that has to be put, because Venus squares Saturn, or some disappointment that ensues, or some deadlines connected to that, or some extra efforts, But then Venus starts making good aspects and it's good again. And then Venus moves on June 23rd into your 11th house, where Mercury is as well. So your social life becomes even busier. Your expansion to reach out new audiences becomes easier. New clients, if you want, marketing, advertising, fantastic time for already from when Mercury enters, from June the 13th, to do such campaigns for wider outreach, publicity, or maybe more gains if you have a business, or maybe some bonus if you're on a salary, and maybe good times with friends. So thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this month, Leos. Some of you will have it tougher, especially those who have their degrees of Leo around 25, 24, when Saturn is 26, 25, 24, 23, when Saturn is going retrograde on those degrees, kind of the pressure you can feel, especially from external circumstances and external, other people sometimes, because Saturn is directly opposing you. But again, everything will be for the best. Virgo, Sun, Moon, Rising, June 2022. Virgo, the good news is that your planet Mercury is turning direct from the beginning of the month in your 9th house. So, but it is you. So if you had some complications regarding maybe something connected to the 9th house, to foreign documents, foreign travel, education, higher knowledge, teaching, problems with father figures or mentors, these will start improving after the first week. They might still escalate at the beginning because Saturn is square Mercury. They have to require some extra effort and energy, or certain obstacles to overcome, but all of this improves after that. But Mercury, because it's you, it can mean that your overall, especially at the beginning, Saturn is still square the first week Mercury, you might feel a little bit slowed down, still a little bit more burden, a little bit more negative. But after the first week, any complications in your life that have happened over the last month and something will start improving. Probably they will, because Mercury has become retrograde for you. And you will start moving forward with an improved vision, and you'll probably see the results of some extra efforts you've been putting over the last month or so. And you start seeing the positive results of whatever you've undergone that was a bit more complicated. And then on June the 4th, at the same time, Saturn is turning retrograde in your 6th house. This is the third time Saturn is turning retrograde in the 6th house for the last 2 years. And I think that's the last time almost, yes. And then it's not going to do it for 30 years, but it's going to last for 5 months. And you feel it especially strong that there is some change in the direction of your work possibly happening, because Saturn in the 6th house, it is work. The work environment might be changing. You might notice that. On another level, your mind in regards to matters regarding health and exercise can be changing. Or unfortunately, sometimes when Saturn goes retrograde in the 6th house, some health condition can deepen, especially chronic one, can come back and resurface to be dealt with, and you have an opportunity over the next fifth months to learn to regulate it, to control it better. Maybe it will fully go away when Saturn is removed from your 6th house, but Saturn usually helps with regulation, moderation for health issues, and control, keeping the situation within control. Maybe you'll be revisiting some old workout routine, picking up some old exercise. Maybe you used to work 20 years ago and you've left it, or maybe you started some work routine recently and now you're gonna deepen it, or some other health routine of elimination. But Saturn is the power of eliminating something from you, or making yourself every day do a little bit of something, so you make it a routine in your life. So now you have to put extra effort for that. But if you endure those 4 or 5 months, whether you're stopping drinking or smoking or some other 6th house rules, self-medicating and anything like that, so any kind of addictive substances or pills or medical, chemical stuff, you might be able to really have the power of null over it. And within 4 or 5 months, when Saturn turns direct, you'd find yourself freed from it, or you'd find you've made a routine living without it, or made a routine living with the improved health habit that usually is, that you were not sticking with, but the retrograde motion will help you implant it very deeply. Say, is it running, or is it, whatever? Is it avoiding fats or meat or whatever? Okay. And then talking about work, though, you might be working on some project that you started before, and Saturn going retrograde, you have to dig deep. Maybe it will slow down for 5 months. Maybe it will require restructuring, reorganizing. And at the end, the results will be possibly really good, because Saturn is in its own sign. So some work project will, even after, you might have to burn the midnight oil for a while, put extra efforts at work, kind of workaholic a little bit, but the final results can be really good because Saturn is in its own sign. Or you might be working on some debt, 6th house rules debt, to restructure it, to putting extra efforts to diminish it, so that's a fantastic time for that. Fantastic time to work on health, to work on debt, paying off some debt as well, and to restructure your career, your work. If you have your own business, it can mean making it a bit smaller, chipping off the things, for example, removing things from it that are not, whatever in your work process, even if it's not your own business, to make it more, what's the word? Organized, more efficient. Oh, and Virgos love this word, efficient, organized. You'll notice yourself, you're becoming a bit OCD with organization and cleanliness around you, the body cleanliness around you, in the office, at home. Possibly Saturn really intensifies when it's retrograde about all those 6th house things, which you're naturally already doing. And also there can be a lot of duties and responsibilities. That's the 6th house. That they deepen, they might be around children, because Saturn rules the 5th house, or around your work. But the final result can be, that you've streamlined your processes of work and your duties, and you learn to do them masterfully, and you've done a lot of work, especially 6th house, the things you don't really like to do, like fix problems, work, duties, responsibilities, take care of health and health routines and exercises. But this is a fantastic time to implement long-term good health routines, and good work practices and daily routines of any sort. So do the hard work now, so you can really, after that, it's gonna become second nature to you. On June the 13th, Mercury moves into Gemini, and that means your planet moves in one of its signs in your 10th house. It can become good time for some important communications, negotiations connected to your work, connected to your career. Talks with institutions and authority figures can go really well. You can have some work trips, or it can be a great time for any work that requires Mercury skills, business meetings, writing, speaking, presentations, communications, training. That can go quite nice, well, and actually Venus will help even more with your public image and your responsibilities and duties around June 23rd, because it also will enter your 10th house. So you see there's a lot of focus on work, career, material things, because Saturn is in your 6th house, maybe working extra hard on work as well, changing something in your work, the direction of your work, or working behind the scenes on something. But also you start getting recognition there with Mercury first in the middle of the month, and then Venus on the 29th, 3rd of June entering there to make things easier with authority figures. And if you want to approach an institutional authority figure, do it when Venus is in your 10th house. That will be, you'll be approached much nicer, you know, and much more, you get the response that you want. And if you want to initiate new things in your career, do it when Mercury or Venus is there as well, because these are all wonderful planets. And that's it, guys. Pretty much what I had to tell you. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this month. Oh yeah, Mars is in your 8th house the whole month. That's good because it's in its own sign. You can have sudden healings. Mars in the 8th house in its own sign. Sudden healings, sudden psychological breakthroughs, sudden realizations of secrets that, or something that was hidden from you that becomes clear to you from your subconscious to your conscious, that makes you cross a bridge or makes you kind of break through some shadow of yours, or break through some trauma that you had. Plus also it can increase the sexual intimacy. It can increase the 8th houses, other people's resources and finances, where you are involved with other people's money, that you can gain access to such money. You can manifest money coming to you from others, and especially maybe you're doing more efforts in that direction, or maybe from taxes, from insurance, from inheritance. Things can start moving there, can be moving a lot faster with taxes and such things. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next month. Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising, June 2023. The first news is that the whole month Mars will be in your relationship sphere, in its own sign. So really invigorating you. You might notice that you're attracting a lot more active people, more youthful, more excitable, and that others or your partner is like an engine, a driving force behind your actions. And actually it helps to, if you collaborate with someone to do something difficult together with another person, because you have kind of like more drive, excitement to do it together. You can initiate some project together. Or you can notice that if your partner has been a bit more, you know, slow or whatever, they'll start, their reality will start speeding up. A lot of events will be happening, connecting with others. So a lot of exchanges and communications with others, and some of them a bit more heated, some of them a bit more sexual. It usually can increase the sex drive when Mars is in the 7th house with others, if you're in such a phase of life, of course. And on the negative side, sometimes if Mars is doing hard aspects to some of your planets in your horoscope while it's in the 7th house, not the whole month, but sporadically, if it makes hard aspects, you can notice escalation with others, in your relationships with others, some kind of a confrontation that happens. But you're willing to stand your ground when it comes to others, even to put others in the corner and impose on them whatever you want. And if it comes to business, because 7th house is related to business, you can forge some much more let's say brave contracts and agreements much more, you can be more aggressive in business, so to speak, in reaching out to others. And you can have some great results because Mars is in its own sign. Just be careful about the possibility of arguments because of others becoming more pushy towards you, or and you of course responding, or even you initiating that. But definitely a lot more energy, excitement, sorry about that, a lot more energy, excitement in relationships with others, a lot more dynamic developments there. The other big thing is that Mercury is turning direct in your 8th house around the 3rd of June, but Mercury is still is still square Saturn the first week of June, which means that if there are some complications in regards to partners' resources, finances, mutual finances and resources in business, stock investments, matters connected to taxes, insurances, inheritances. For example, this Mercury retrograde in my husband's 8th house, because he's Libra rising, created some difficult situations around taxes, because our tax guy says, well, I don't have time to do it on your own. So he had to do everything that's like a retrograde period. He had to delay the payment of the taxes. It was very strenuous for him, very stressful. And I told him after the first 10 days of June, and even the first week of June, you'll start feeling a relief. You'll see the results of the hard efforts you put. Plus Venus is in your 8th house all the time till June 23rd. So it's really already helping with any problems related to insurances, inheritances, mutual finances, stock market, investments that you've put in some funds or whatever. There might be some last complication the first week because Mercury retrograde, Saturn, some delays, but after that things really start flowing smoothly, and if you've done the right work, you're gonna see much better results, like receiving more money from clients, support from another, money that you expect from another, or anything else, 8th house, insurances, inheritances. Plus it can indicate resolving some intimacy issue if you had some problem when Mercury retrograde in the 8th house on a personal level, about some secrets coming to the surface, some intense power struggles in communications and in relationships, because 8th house is connected to that. They can start getting resolved. Plus, if you were struggling with some obsessive tendency or a darker side of yourself, while Mercury was retrograde in the 8th house, when it starts moving direct, you can find like a liberation from such kind of obsessiveness or such kind of darker manifestation of the self, or such kind of situations that something has more power over you. And because the ultimate goal of the 8th house is liberation, Mercury starts moving direct there, Venus is there. You can have some psychological liberation from a complicated trauma or complicated attachment of some sort to another or to something. Okay, then at the same time that Mercury is turning direct, Saturn is turning retrograde in your 5th house. Actually, it's happened already twice in the last 2 years, from 2020, 2021, and now 2022. I think it's the last time. It will be retrograde for 5 months and not again for 30 years. And that means that starting from the beginning of June, maybe already from May, some of you felt it, you are re-examining, because that's Saturn likes to really slow things down when it goes retrograde, and re-examining your approach to 5th house matters. So some of you, it might be re-examining your creative projects, bringing some old creative project or hobby or some old sport you used to do for life, for fun, bringing it back to life. Retrograde can mean one of those things. Really going back to some kind of a pastime or leisure time or sports, especially with way more commitment and with way more serious approach towards some sports or whatever. And or some creative project, it doesn't have to be creative like painting. It can be some original idea that you had, some original project. It might be even some projects for business, if it's your own business or your own original idea that you thought about before, you started before, and you come back, Saturn goes retrograde, and you go back to revive it or to start doing it now. but it's not something new. It's something you've thought about, that is your own baby or original idea, or something that you are already doing that you have to double down the efforts on, and you have to redo it, change it somehow, you know. So if you're creating a business, for example, if you started doing it already, Saturn retrograde day, you can reorganize some of the ideas for this business, you know, some of the what it will present as a project creatively and so on. But it can be a slowing down of such processes. And on another level, fifth house is romantic pleasures and romantic enjoyments, you know, like dates or having fun overall. Well, you know, when Saturn is in the fifth house for the last 2 years, maybe it hasn't been so accessible for many Libras because of responsibilities of some sort, because of many duties. And Saturn retrograding there can again kind of double down on the responsibilities, especially domestic responsibilities, because Saturn rules your fourth house, and that can influence the access to enjoyments to you, and you have to plan it better, you have to organize. Like, fun is not so easily accessible for Libras unless they plan for it, unless they organize themselves for it, unless it's something that is also productive as a fun, you know, like running or you know, if you like some hobbies, you also are working on them with the perspective to turn them into a career of some sort. Or maybe duties and responsibilities around children will intensify for the next 4 or 5 months. But on a positive level, it means you re-examining, those of you who have children, you re-examining your boundaries with children, your rules and your structure around how you're raising children, and doubling down on your efforts to make it more to remove unnecessary things that are overburdening you yourself, and to create more structure in the life of your children. Or it might be that a child of yours is going through a period where it needs you more help or more support, or a child that is some of you can mean your child coming back, maybe they were abroad somewhere or far away and you're reconnecting with your child. That's another positive way to look at it. And of course, fifth house is romance. So some of you might be re-examining the patterns in your romantic life. And it can be like a slowing down of your romantic life and deciding how to make the romance more sustainable long term. Maybe revisiting some old things that you used to do romantically with a partner, planning time romantically to be intimate or to have a quality romantic time with your partner, to have fun, but it has to be planned. It can't be like spontaneous almost. As I said, even Saturn can deprive you of access to that. Or some of you on a more negative level can be re-evaluating whether who you want to be romantically connected with, and putting boundaries. What do you allow in love in situations? If someone is hurting your ego, is hurting your self-expression, is sucking out the joy of your life, so to speak, how do you say no to that and the structures you build around it? Sometimes they can be like an ego hit that happens to a person connected to romantic matters that they have to work through in some way. And sometimes just a little bit of a dry period. But again, because Saturn is in its own sign, it wants to finally, the final results, especially when it turns direct, can be very good with creative project, with what you did with children, with your romantic relationships or pastimes and pleasures of any sort. But you're a lot working on your self-confidence. That can be a great time, for example, because fifth house is one of the houses of the self, on self-improvement of any sort, through spiritual techniques, through exercise, and that's not so much exercise for health as exercise to improve your self-confidence, in a sense, in your appearance even, that you can double down on efforts there when Saturn is retrograde. All right, some old romantic partners or patterns might be returning for you to re-examine them. Then June the 13th, Mercury moves into your 9th house from the 8th to the 9th and in its own sign. So that can be a fantastic time from June the 13th, maybe travel to some time into July to go on a trip somewhere. far away, for a different culture, to connect with foreigners socially, to make foreign friends as well, to connect, even not in person, but online with people from a different social background, with teachers, with inspirational people, or to even start learning or studying something new that opens up your mind, that you find more inspirational. And opportunities, as I said, for travel and so on, and doing documents for foreign relocation. There is a full moon in Libra on June the 14th, so you can be quite social around that time in the full moon. You can, short trip possible as well, long trips and short trips, and communications escalate in some way. Some important news can come to you, some important piece of paper, document, device, something important connected with devices for social contact. And at the end, Venus moves into your 9th house on June the 23rd, so it becomes even better from June the 23rd into halfway into July, for traveling to foreign places, for learning something new, for very pleasant new relationships that arrive in your life, that expand, especially with women, or it can be even a romantic relationship that expands your horizon. Or if you're traveling abroad, you can enjoy a lot such experience. Or if you're taking on a course, educational, higher knowledge of some sort, you can flow through it, breathe through it, really enjoy it. You can find new motivation, inspiration, and more luck overall. So thank you so much. Let's see how it goes. Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, June 2022. Mercury is turning direct in your 7th house, guys. So if there was some complications around relationships and business partnerships, with clients, with contracts, with agreements, with some project you're working on with another person, and overall in relationships, those start improving after the first week of June. Because the first week when Mercury is turning direct is still square Saturn, so there's some final effort to put there, some final delay to overcome an obstacle, some final clarifications. But then Mercury moves away from the square with Saturn, and you start feeling way better improvement in your relationships overall, with others, becoming more agreeable, more friendly, nicer people around you. Even if you removed some relationships or contacts from your life, you kind of start seeing the positive results. Or if you have to rework something, set new boundaries, new rules, you're going to start seeing after the first week of June the good results of that effort. Or if it was for some contract, it starts moving forward and giving good results. And Venus is, of course, in your 7th house as well till June 23rd. So it definitely improves after the first week your relationships in some way. And then at some point, Venus will make conjunction with Rahu in the North Node in the 7th house, which are very excitable planets. So some new people can enter your life, even romantic interests that are excitable. They might be foreign or very different than you, or just some new person, doesn't have to be romantic, who kind of gives you a very different vibe, very different perspective, opens up some horizon. Or you might be some very unusual thing that you're both interested about that connects you. But as well, Venus is making the final aspect between June the 11th and 19th. First, those exciting things in relationships that happen, some new developments, even some shocking things that can happen, that can surprise you in regards to a partner or business partner or another person you're in contract with, or your marriage partner or boyfriend, girlfriend, something new that they do, something that surprises you. But then Venus squares Saturn, so there's some kind of a culling again of false hopes or unrealistic ideas, or some kind of disappointment that can be involved in this new energy that is coming, in this new surprising developments there with relationships and others, or some extra, or sometimes it can be like a new project that you do with another that appears, that has some obstacle to be overcome. But Venus starts doing a lot of nicer aspects after that, so it improves. Of course, so Mercury turns direct in your 7th house. At the same time, at the beginning of June, Saturn turns retrograde in your 4th house. And that's not the first time it's done it. Saturn turns retrograde for 5 months, once every year. And Saturn has been in your 4th house twice already, 2020 and 2021. So So Saturn will go retrograde in your 4th house, which means things connected to home, to family, can turn another direction. There can be some extra responsibilities connected to parenthood, to family, towards parents, for caring, taking care of another, or something with property, some complications, property, land, place of living that you have to work on over the next 5 months. Sometimes people like do restructuring of their home, moving, refurbishing around such month. It might be slow going, but it will be meticulous, it will be masterful, and the final result will be fantastic as long as you have the patience. Because Saturn retrograde in your 4th house, if you're planning to do renovations for a couple of months, it will take 4 or 5 months. But if you're trying to relocate or move somewhere, you can double down on the efforts, but again, it can feel more laborious, this process, but the final result can be quite exquisite because Saturn is in its own sign. What it can be hard on is some complications in the family. What can be hard is like you're working through some family karma, or working through some family responsibilities, or working through some health problems with family members, elderly, for example. On another level, more positive, you can be revisiting an old place and going back to live somewhere you've been before over the next 5 months. That's another possibility it can work out on. But because it's Saturn, it's always kind of, there is some fear involved, there is always some doubt, or another way it can play out is 4th house is the karma of the family. So you might be revisiting and becoming powerfully aware, because a retrograde planet is more introspective, becomes aware of certain patterns that when planet moves direct, we're not aware of. So you can become aware of certain family repeating patterns, and you can work on them slowly. The results will not be immediate. Saturn is a slow karmic cleaner, karmic burn that is on a low burner. Saturn is the planet of the cleaner, so it might be clearing, even subconsciously for you, certain issues from the past, from your early childhood, from your early family, or family from ancestors, like a repeating pattern of, I don't know, of divorce, or repeating pattern of poverty, or something that you become aware of. Maybe work with a psychologist to release, to detach from. That's the ultimate vibration of Saturn, detachment and acceptance, and letting go of course. But don't expect immediate results. The results will come more obvious when Saturn turns direct, or even moves out of your 4th house, where you feel released from certain family patterns. Some of you might even reevaluate family relationships and put more boundaries with parents or with other family members, and kind of for protection, sometimes even for some kind of isolation. Sometimes it indicates some changes in place of living, such matters that will be important for you in the next 5 months, and changes, circumstances of matters regarding buying, selling property, change in a different direction, or relocating. Mercury moves into Gemini on the 13th, into your 9th house, so very positive energy. And Venus joins it on June the 23rd. So, as I said, fantastic time to travel to foreign places, for higher education. I think we mentioned all of that, yeah. Sorry, not your 9th house. What am I talking about? Sorry, Scorpios. This is your 7th house. I was looking at Libra. So, sorry, your 8th house. So, Mercury moves into your 8th house on June the 13th. And Venus will move on June the 23rd. So there'll be a lot of 8th house activity going on from the middle of the month and into the middle of June probably. So, but because it's good planets and good aspects, you can feel like some speeding up or focus that you resolve well with taxes, with insurances, with inheritances, money coming to you from others, or some investments that are paying off, or some new investments that you do that are kind of positive in mutual finances, resources, or whatever. That your partner's finance and resources can improve, that you receive more from others, whether it's your clients or help from others and support. Ask and you shall receive in the second part of the month. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And I think that's an overall theme for you this whole year, Scorpios, because the North Node is in your 7th house. And that's a good thing to, to reach out, others to help you out. Rahu there, the North Node is the active ingredient, while the passive ingredient, the South Node, is in your sign the whole year. So you might feel like less energy, less motivated, but others can push you and others can excite you. And as I said, with Rahu in the 7th house, people can often meet someone new that turns their life around, that is very exciting, very excitable. And as I said, Venus will be conjunct Uranus and the North Node, triggering it in its own sign around the middle of the month. For some of you, this can be some new person that comes that's very exciting, that carries a lot of sexual energy around that. Why am I saying sexual energy? Because Rahu is sexual and Uranus is Eros as well, the erotic power. And it might be a bit disruptive as well. It wants to disrupt the old if new people appear in your life, and not necessarily you have sex with them. It's not necessarily erotic partners as well, but someone that sparkles you and brings new exciting energy into you. So there we go. Thank you so much. And of course, you have to approach those new people with a bit of cautiousness. If you meet new people around the 11th and 19th, or this month, while Venus is with North Node and Uranus, the energies of newness in your 7th house of relationships. If you meet someone else, because Venus is also squaring Saturn, you have to get excited for the new things they bring, but also have the benefit of the doubt a little bit, and not go fully blindly. You have to check things up a little bit with Saturn. So thank you so much, and I will see you next month. Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, June 2022. The month starts with the ruler of your 7th house and the ruler of your 10th house of career, Mercury, turning direct. For the past month, almost, it was retrograde. So if there were some complications regarding your personal relationships or business relationships with clients or partners, or with your career, if there were some delays, complications, after the first week of June, they would improve. Actually, the first week, there can be still some complications, escalations of problems there, because Mercury is square Saturn, a planet of problems, but you're resolving them gradually. And after the first week, 10 days of June, you'll see a very positive turn in regards to your personal relationship, business ones, in regards to career projects, and any complications or delays there as well, or in regards to anything to do with career. But Mercury is turning direct actually in your 6th house, which is directly related to work as well. So if there was a difficult situation at your office, work environment, some delays of a work project, it's a final push at the beginning of June, and it starts improving, giving results. If you have to make some changes there in your work processes or in your health routines, processes, you start seeing positive results after that. Plus, if there were some complications to your health when Mercury was retrograde in your 6th house, you can start seeing improvements after the first week. Maybe some escalation, the need for final correction when Saturn is squaring Mercury when it's turned direct, but then things start moving forward there and improving. Plus, Venus is in your 6th house the whole month almost, Sagittarius, so it's further helping improve the conditions of your work environment, the conditions of your health as well, improve your health overall, if there was some crisis there. At the same time that Mercury is turning direct, Saturn is turning retrograde, so you might have noticed a bit of a slowing down, especially in matters of communication, of business, of everyday activities. Saturn is turning retrograde in your 3rd house for the next 5 months. There can be a turnaround in relationships with siblings, with relatives, with mates, friends. And it might be a time for culling and reassessment. Who do you let in your life? 3rd house is your everyday casual contacts, what you read on the internet, what you let into your mind through TV, through reading, through social media, the people that you communicate on a daily basis, or through, in social media. So some of you might do some reevaluating and set boundaries in who you let in your life, or what kind of information, to restrict the flow of information somehow as well, and the flow of communications, so it can still your mind a bit and focus it on more serious matters rather than everyday chit chat and everyday gossip, news, and you have a very doubting eye to any kind of information you receive. It's been happening for a couple of years for you, but it continues intensely. This process intensifies now in June. What do you let? And every information you let, you are the sign of truth, Sagittarius. So it's very important to veto, or what's it called, like check fact your information. And often it can create even distrust to social media or to sources of information, like the mainstream media as well, to re-examine your sources of information. On a positive level, it's a time to, as I said, deepen your mind, maybe study something deeper, maybe go back to complete some course of study you started before, or if you're already studying something, to deepen into it, to really improve your techniques, your skills of some sort. Maybe to learn the difficult things like a language, because a retrograde planet makes you do something very difficult that progresses very slowly, but it, especially Saturn, gives you the ability to cope with this difficulty and to persevere day by day, little by little. It's like learning a language, learning to drive, learning to operate any new skill. I mean, learning to use some software, learning to make a website, learning to knit or whatever it is. So you can really deepen such skills now when Saturn is retrograde. Or you can go back to old such interests that you left behind. Maybe you used to, I don't know, to do programming. Now you might come back to it. Maybe you used to do something, some skill, something that was of interest to you. You can make it more masterful now. You can revive it, go back to it. On another level, it can mean some project connected to writing, to speaking, to marketing, advertising, to business online, to trading, to sales. Can slow down, and you might want to, for example, restructure your website or your marketing skill or marketing campaign, or reorganize what kind of clients you want to reach. And they need some very difficult business meetings. Things go slowly if you're working on some project, whether online or whatever, that requires your intelligence, communication skills, that it's kind of you're working extra hard on such matters. But as I said, your mind is way more focused, way more organized when Saturn is in the third, especially retrograde. And by the time this retrogression finishes at the end, in 5 months or something, 4 or 5 months, you'd have a much clearer mind, much stiller mind, much more organized thought, a deepened skills at something, a much more better project if you're working on some commercial business project. But again, it can take longer because Saturn is retrograde there. And maybe working in a small group environment with others, if you have colleagues, or if you're working with 2-3 people on something, there can be some delays. They need to restructure, change a project, to reorganize, returning it over and over, checking it, editing it, but the final result can be great. Sometimes Saturn can limit access to information, communication, cars, transportation, can make it more complicated when it's retrograde. Maybe your car needs repairs all the time, or if you're buying a new vehicle, I'll advise you buy a second-hand one. The Saturn retrograde. Or if you're buying laptops and so on, the laptops might break up more, communication devices. You can lose contact with some people sometimes, or you can consciously decide to lose contact with some people. You just don't want them. You're killing people that are wasting your time, and just leaving people that are more, that you can have some more practical results with. All right, but it can sometimes cool off relationships with siblings, with relatives, or rethink them and put the right boundaries. So maybe do some projects together with colleagues, neighbors, relatives, siblings that requires extra effort. June the 13th, Mercury moves Sagittarius into your, from your 6th house that we talked about, moves into your 7th house. So the focus will become a lot more on relationships for a little bit. Well, it's already been on a relationship. There was a new moon at the beginning of the month in June in your 7th house. Mercury intensifies the energy there. So new people can appear in your life. They're more interesting. While you are removing certain people, Saturn in the 3rd house, some new people can come as well, because Mercury goes into another social house. Such people that there might be more clients, or there might be one-on-one, someone that you communicate with, or a new relationship interest. But it has youthful energy, and because Mercury is in its own sign, it's positive. It brings you new ideas, it excites you to try something new, to experiment, brings new interesting communications, makes you laugh. Or maybe if you're already in a relationship, it kind of, the banter becomes more enjoyable. You enjoy some mutual hobbies together, you do some interesting things together, you socialize more. And Venus will go and join it on the 23rd in your 7th house. So fantastic time to meet new people. Again, it continues that trend to be more social, even romantic developments, you know, towards the end of June, with more attractive, more pleasant people, and your communications with others, Venus, Mercury, become more pleasant, while at the same time you're keeping the right boundaries for people not to waste your time with Saturn in the 3rd house, and your mind is still focused and organized. But possibly because of this culling and boundaries and rethinking that Saturn is doing, you're also making space for something fresher energy, of more likable, more fresh energy from others. And of course, that can be a good time to reach out as well to others in some way, new clients as well. Or if you have to present something to another, it will be accepted much better after June the 13th, June 23rd, when Venus and Mercury in your 7th house. It can be a great time to collaborate with another, to do something with a partner, for example, and to have more focus on partnerships, more social time, while continuing Saturn in the 3rd house to keep your social qualities more, in a sense, more streamlined and more knowing when to say no as well. And there is a full moon in your sign on June the 14th, which means that escalation, completion of some project maybe that you started a long time ago, or some culmination, spotlight is on you. Usually I tend to see results of previous actions when there is a moon, a full moon in my sun sign, on the ascendant sign as well, or the moon. There is a spotlight on you, and especially those Sagittarius that are born a bit later, 20 to 30 degrees can feel it the most. And it's an eclipse that can make you more popular, that can make you more visible in some way, that can make you pay attention to your physical appearance as well. And some important escalation in your life about something that you're already aware of that has started, hopefully in a positive way. So thank you so much, Sagittarius. Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising, June 2022. Mercury is turning direct Capricorns on June the 3rd, square by your planet and in your 5th house. So if there were some complications in your romantic life, if there was some reevaluation of your romantic life, or some complications in your creative life, maybe some business idea that's your own, that you've been, you know, it's been delayed, or you're redoing it, or anything that it's your own creation. It might be business, it might be something creative, but it is your own ideas that you might have been redoing, that might have showed some complexity, some problem that you have to fix, redo. Well, now when Mercury starts moving direct, you will see improvement, and you'll see the complications there improving, but not immediately, because first Mercury is square Saturn. There might be some final push. Capricorns, in regards to matters with children, with creative projects, with creative ideas, self-expression, and of course romantic partnerships, and the final push. And then after the first week, I think you'd see some very easing off with any difficulties there, and improvements, and seeing better and better results in such matters. In regards to the other big event this month, your planet Saturn is turning retrograde. So maybe you've noticed slowing down of things in the last 10 days, and especially the first 10 days of June, because your planet is almost stationary, it's not moving. Almost the whole June, it's not moving. Slowly starts moving backwards. So there is some kind of big reorientation of your outlook and the direction of your life that is happening. And maybe you might feel stuck for a little bit and like, oh, where am I going? I don't know what to do. This is the kind of feeling. I know something is changing, but I don't know where it's going and what to do. But you'll start noticing gradually, maybe mid-June, you'll start like adapting to this new reorientation. Sometimes a crisis situation can happen when your planet starts turning retrograde, because, you know, that's a change of some sort. But it's turning retrograde in your And it's also asking you to slow a little bit down, you know, so you can see things more from a distance. And that will give you a better perspective, more detached perspective. That's good. So if things are a bit slowed down, don't worry about that. But then Saturn is retrograding in your second house, and that's for the third time since 2 years. In 2020, 2021, now 2023, I think it might be the last time. And that's kind of this slowing down can give you a opportunity to pull yourself away and distance yourself and see from a different perspective, especially patterns regarded to money, to self-worth, to finances, to resources. What you're doing wrong? Is there some negative beliefs or negative practices that you're doing wrong? You can really become aware of them now in this period in June while Saturn is changing directions. And you can work on them for the next 5 months while Saturn is retrograde to eliminate them. That's the purpose of Saturn. Become aware of something, eliminate it, or restructure it. So it might be a great time to restructure your finances, your spending. Some of you might start saving for something that you want to invest in long term. So if it's with a goal, it's great. But because Saturn is you're investing yourself a lot in restructuring your security, restructuring your approach to finances, and most importantly, on the deepest level, really changing somehow and restructuring your self-worth. Sometimes Saturn can really depress the self-worth of a person when it's in the second house, initially of its transit, and then a person starts becoming aware of the deeper self-worth reasons that they have for better self-worth, the longer lasting ones, the ones that are really real, so to speak. And so some of you might be changing prices, might be changing, might be reevaluating their salaries. Sometimes someone can even take a salary cut of some reason so they can go to a job that is more appropriate for them, that in the long term will have positive longer effects, for their status. Or sometimes a person just can take a very different approach and restructure their self-worth in a sense that, I think I explained it already. I don't want to make it too long, sorry. And another thing, the second house is, and I'm advising when Saturn is retrograding your second house for the next 5 months, be a bit more cautious with finances. Don't take risks. Maybe you might have to pay off some old financial debts that come off, or you might have to spend money for something that it comes up that needs to be fixed or repaired, or, for something else to invest on. But this spending of money, because Saturn is in its own sign, it will be resolved very wisely. And by the end of the period, if there were some complications even with finances over the next 5 months, you'll be able to resolve this patiently, slowly, in a more traditional way, following lawful steps, by working harder, by really structuring and organizing things better, and you'll have a very good solution. On the other hand, Saturn retrograde in the second house is a great time to reevaluate your eating habits, to restructure them, to limit them, to eliminate something, to make them more efficient, and the final results again will be that in 5 months you can have a much more organized eating routine, or much healthier eating routine overall. Okay, then on June the 13th, Mercury will move into your 6th house, where the Sun is, and Venus will move into your 6th house on June 23rd. So have a lot of energies here in that area of the horoscope, which corresponds to work for you. So some of you, responsibilities around work can pick up, but in a positive way. You might be enjoying it even more. The work environment might improve. Some new project can come for you in some way, new colleagues or new employees, if you want to call it that. But because they're two gentle planets, Venus and Mercury, things go smoothly and more enjoyably. Generally, there can always be exceptions. And of course, the 6th house is your attitude towards health, your health routines. Saturn will be helping from the second house to restructure your eating habits, what you put in your body, to have no power, no saying power. Wow, Venus, Mercury towards the end of the month in your sixth house will help you make any health changes more enjoyable and gives you more kind of a desire. These are two planets of desire, Raja planets as they call them, and to bring, like, you know, if you have more desire for something, you're more likely to do it for a longer term, to pay more attention to your health overall. And you can get a lot of things done, basically. And your work, especially if your work requires writing, speaking, communicating, or anything to do with beauty, with relationships, can really pick up as well. Any kind of service can become more enjoyable or more satisfying in any sort. There is a full moon on June the 14th, and it's happening in your 12th house. So around that time, you can have some very powerful intuitive insights in the middle of the month. Maybe dreams that you receive messages from departed ones, because this is a very psychic house. Maybe just sudden illuminations that you download information of some sort, or sudden awareness about your own hidden patterns. 12th house is the house of hidden vices, as they call them. Some of those can be addictions, you know, self-sabotaging behaviors of any sort. You can have some realization. The full moon brings something hidden from the subconscious to the surface of your consciousness, and to complete it, to remove it. 12th house is a moksha house of liberation. So you can be liberated from some limiting self-sabotaging behavior, or get awareness more about it, and or eliminate something that it's time for it to be eliminated from your life. All right. And then I think that's about it, guys. I think we covered everything. Venus will be making a series of conjunctions in your 5th house. I forgot to speak about that. From the 11th till the 19th of June, Venus in your 5th house will join Uranus and the North Node. These are two very exciting energies of new, and 5th house can be a romantic experience, or doing something. 5th house is also leisures, hobbies, enjoyments of any sorts, having fun time. You can do something fun that you've never done before, something very unusual, some new, very unusual romantic interest can appear on the horizon for you. Or if you're already in a romantic relationship, it can be that you do something excitable with your partner, or something even a bit disruptive, something that you haven't done before. But you have to be a bit cautious as well, because at the same time Venus is square square Saturn. So there can be, if a new such romantic interest appears, there can be some disappointment or some obstacles within that period that has to be overcome as well. And 5th house is creative ideas. Some new creative idea can appear out of the blue that is very exciting for you, and you have to approach it with a bit more practical mind. Yes, it will bring you the energy of the novice, of the excitement, but you need to take into consideration more practical matters as well, because of the Saturn square. And of course, 5th house is creative projects. Okay, we talked about that. Fun activities. Well, that's about it, guys. We covered it. Nothing too dramatic, nothing too big. This Saturn retrograde that's happening, but you're used to that energy. You're Saturn ruled. It's specific focus on your finances this year and your self-worth, and restructuring it in some way, taking at it from a different perspective. Thank you. Aquarius Sun, Moon, or Rising, June 2022. All right, Aquarius. The planet that rules you, Saturn, is turning retrograde. Probably that's the biggest influence for you this month. Let's start with it. At the same time, Mercury is turning direct, but I want to talk first about Saturn retrograde, because the last 10 days of May and the first 5 days of June, Saturn is almost stationary. It's not moving. So you might have felt like things are slowing down, that you're stopping yourself about something, or that you're taking a step back to detach yourself from a certain circumstance or situation and to see it from a different perspective, more detached perspective. That's one good thing that can happen. So you can start changing your direction with certain project, with certain initiative that you've been doing already for a while, because Saturn retrograde is something that you will be rethinking and seeing from a different perspective about something you've been doing. It might be how you've been treating your body if it's your ascendant, how you've been, some new project that you've been doing, all basically something that you started before that you have to revise, redo over the next 5 months, restructure, organize more carefully, also diminish, make smaller, make more efficient, make more productive and more focused. And for me, for example, that's my whole business, that and my whole image that will try to restructure in the next 5 months, the whole AstroLada brand, because Saturn is going retrograde in my first house. And I kind of really stepped back from working for a little bit in the last few days, weeks, so I can think of this new, something that already exists, my business, my brand, who is me, to redo it, you know, to change it, to maybe diminish it, not so many followers, but more focused content. So it's some hard work you'll be doing for the next 5 months. But the final result can be fantastic, more streamlined image, project, that is even that requires 3 times more efforts though in the next 5 months, and you might notice like things don't move so smoothly or they move slower than expected. Have patience. Saturn is in your first house. Have patience. You'll end up with something beautiful, something long-lasting, as long as you're not rushing it. And of course, if Saturn is retrograding over your sun sign in Aquarius, it can be rethinking your career, some project, or rethinking relationships with important men, or some important developments that sometimes are more complicated with important men or father figures in your life. Or rethinking your own, again, image and direction in life. If it's, of course, the ascendant, I said it can be even your body. Saturn can help you make smaller your body more. If you're feeling lower energy levels, it can be possible as well. And you have the power to say no when Saturn is in your sign, whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant, they all relate somehow to your health and to your body. And to say no to certain things that are harming your body, or certain practices. And you might feel a little bit more limited in your movement, especially with the ascendant, in your physical movement, but in a more focused, concentrated way. So it might be a good time to do some heavy lifting, to do some strengthening of the body, because Saturn wants to make something harder, strengthen it, you know, and to make it smaller as well, tighter and smaller. And of course, if it's your moon in Aquarius, Saturn going retrograde in your moon sign can indicate revisiting old emotional patterns and family patterns from the past, rethinking your relationship to your family, to your ancestors, and taking a resolve not to repeat, and with repeated effort and extra effort to an awareness every time you repeat some pattern that comes from family, from early childhood, to correct it, to, you know, to eliminate it almost. And it might require a lot of focused attention for 4 or 5 months to do that, but by the time Saturn starts moving direct, you would have made it part of you. It would become natural for you, but you have to do the hard work for the next 5 months. And also it can be some reevaluation of relationships with the moon as well, because the moon is connected to that. All right. And some complications there that you have to deal with, and some patterns in relationships that you repeat, that you have to slowly undo or slowly unlearn or restructure. But overall, we have you become more introspective, more self-focused in a sense, because it's in our first house where the sun, moon, or ascendant, more critical towards yourself, giving yourself more hard time. But because Saturn is in its own sign, the ultimate goal will be to make you better. And there can be more awareness of aging and getting older, or time running and have time advancing. So you really want to really rethink your priorities in the next 5 months. That's the last time Saturn will be retrograde in Aquarius for 30 years as well. So rethinking your priorities can lead to come to this new start for you, which leaves you unburdened from many unnecessary things. And you might have to say goodbye to many things when you're restructuring your life and who you want to be, where you want to be. This first house is all about you, and focusing it more on yourself rather than on others. This is important. I don't think it's a selfish thing, but there's a deep internal process of cleansing of the old happening inside. And some old things and themes from the past can come back when Saturn is retrograde, especially to the later born Aquarius, those from 25 to 15 degrees, 15 to 25 degrees in the next 5 months. So you're building some new foundations gradually, slowly. Don't push the process again, like I said. And then Mercury is turning direct on the 3rd in our 4th house. So what can happen? If there are some complications, delays, or stressful situations around home, property, place of living, it will start untangling itself. There might be the last few days around the beginning of June when Mercury is retrograde Saturn, when you have to correct something, fix something. There's still some possible escalation of relationships with relatives, with parents, extended family, reevaluation of the family situation or home or place of living situation. But it all starts falling together, and if you've done the right changes, you start seeing great improvement after the first week of June. Funny enough, when Mercury was retrograde in my 4th house for the last 1 month, we've been building like an outside kitchen. You might hear noises around. So this is finally coming to an end when Mercury turns direct, exactly in a couple of days. So, and then Mercury moves into your 5th house on June the 13th. And that means more fun coming into your life. More fun social contacts. Mercury social planets. Fun 5th house is to enjoy yourself, parties and so on. Enjoyable communications, uplifting, self-affirming contacts and friendships, plus Mercury was retrograde in your 5th house for some time in part of May. So if there were some complications in romantic, love life, or with creative projects or anything you call your baby, it might be your children. My children were quite complex when Mercury turned retrograde in the 5th house. They were like, so things will start improving there as well from the middle of the month. Or if there was some, like for example, 5th house rules, any business creative ideas that you have or any creative projects, if you rework them in some way, you're going to start seeing good results, things moving forward when Mercury moves into your 5th house. Then there is a full moon in Sagittarius in our 11th house on the 14th of June. So for a couple of weeks, they can also be focused on more sociability, social networks. 11th house is friends, and some friendships coming into full fruition, more emotional and emotionally attaching moments with friends. In extreme cases, it can be you ending some friendship or affiliation with a group. 11th house also your followers, your clients. They can be a escalation or seeing the results of something you've been doing there already in regards to engage them more or whatever. You can start seeing the results for that. 11th house is gains. If you've been working on something to create more gains, again, you can see some results around the middle of the month. And gains, income, bonuses and so on, or some kind of a social recognition, bringing out some product to the public, in the public eye, whatever, that it's completed, seeing results, or seeing is it a good job, is it not. But there is definitely big focus on this 5th house, and it expands more and more the month goes. The sun is the whole month in the 5th house of children, having fun, romantic enjoyments. Mercury goes there from the 14th and Venus from the 23rd, and will continue to be there, both Venus and Mercury, probably till the middle of July, which means fantastic time for holidays, to have fun, to let your hair down, to enjoy yourself, to make yourself center of attention, or to take some roles where you're in the center, or some kind of, to do something more entertaining, or if you're in the entertainment industry, you can see things picking up in art, theater, whatever, or if you're in someone like me who presents and puts themselves in the focus, in the center, you can notice yourself, your confidence rising, and of course that can improve your romantic life overall, having fun, because you look, Venus, when it's in the 5th house, you have more fun, you feel more confident, you feel more flirty, and others like it and they're attracted to you. 5th house is the house of the sun, so you become like a light that shines, And because it's in Gemini, you'll probably be more witty, more entertaining, more fun, and you'll attract others, like following, you know, towards you. And like, you know, just because of your persona shines. And some new creative projects can come to you. You can be enjoying them more. And it can be good to do some sport for fun as well, some enjoyable things as well. Another thing is that around June the 11th to the 19th, before Venus goes into your 5th house, sorry, I'm jumping a bit back, Venus will make a few conjunctions with very excitable planets, with the North Node and with Uranus in your 4th house. Something new can be born, maybe about decoration in your home. You can go a bit crazy with new styles, or something new developments in your home and family, that you do something unusual with your family, or maybe some surprising, a bit, you know, unstable and a bit surprising events that happen around that family. But I would ask you to slow your horses a little bit, even if such things appear. Taking some crazy decisions about family, home, place of living, because Saturn is squaring Venus as the last aspect around the 18th, 19th. So you might have to rethink some things and be more practical in such approaches. But then Venus starts making good aspects, so things, the final aspects of Venus are good, so things really improve. So even if there's some kind of a stressful things moving around and so on around the middle, things will calm down again. Well, there we go, guys. That's your horoscope, and I'll see you next month. Check me out in the new channel. Pisces, Sun, Moon, Rising, June 2022. Pisces, your horoscope, what's happening? First, Mercury, the planet that rules your relationships, is turning direct on the 3rd of June. And it's turning direct in your 3rd house, which is another house of communications, contacts. So if there were some complications in relationships with siblings, relatives, people around you, even partnerships, clients, you know, people in social context. If there were some complications in your relationships, everyday level or personal level, this will start untangling themselves after the first week of June. Why the first week of June? Mercury turns direct on the 3rd, but it's square Saturn. So there might be still some undercurrents there, some obstacles, some things that are being delayed or that are still tense, that you might be resolving, but it will start improving more and more, and things go more according to plan. 3rd house is also business projects, commercial activities, trade, sales, marketing, advertising, correspondence, if papers, documents of any sort, negotiations. If there were some complications or delays or stresses with those, again, there might be a last escalation while Mercury is square Saturn at the beginning of the month, but then it starts improving and things moving forward. So if there are complications or delays related to traveling and such matters, they'll improve and you start, you know, you have the green light to move forward. Or if there are some complications connected to your website or connected to any laptops or any phones, you know, wait till Mercury finishes the square with Saturn. So after the first week, after the first 7-8 days of the month, things will start moving forward ahead, or any trips again. On another level, Mars continues to be in your horoscope in the 2nd house, making you very active for procuring resources, maybe very active in spending as well. Some spendings, when one becomes a bit like that when Mars is in the 2nd house. It might be a good time to buy equipment and anything metal or anything kind of that is kind of heavy equipment of some sort, spending on such things. But it's, you know, it's also, it makes you proactive in pursuing finances of any sort and material security. The other big event happening this month is that Saturn is turning retrograde at the beginning of the month on the 4th of June. It's been stationary, and it will be stationary, almost like not moving the first 10-15 days, very barely things moving. So you might have noticed kind of slowing down of things recently. And Saturn is turning retrograde specifically for you for the 3rd time in 2 years, for the next 5 months in your 12th house. That will be probably one of the last times for the next 30 years Saturn will be retrograde in your 12th house. It's a little bit of a difficult position, Saturn going retrograde there. You can feel like things are a bit stuck, because Saturn next year will enter your sign and you're ready to give birth to something new, but you're still not time. It's still gestation period, as they call it. You're still in the pregnancy phase. So it's good time to dig deep down and research. Don't rush to start totally brand new directions in your life, like totally like new beginning, totally, with careers and such things. Well, if, maybe something else in your horoscope is calling for a brand new beginning, but especially if your ascendant is in Pisces, it might take till next year, but you're still revisiting the past. The 12th house is connected to the past and digging deeper, trying to liberate yourself from psychological dependencies, hidden vices, addictions, psychological dependencies to the past. And it's like a natural dying off process, that you're disconnecting from the past, that there'll be some endings and you're quite ready for them to be true. But it's a very slow process, so you might still feel stuck in the releasing. But the ultimate goal of the 12th house is moksha, liberation from attachments to material circumstances, and letting go and letting God. With Saturn there, it's a very slow, laborious process, but it's going. Saturn is cleaning up the old gradually, slowly. Don't rush the process. If you're working with a psychologist or someone else into the mystical fields or into the fields of the soul, it can be a slow process of shedding the old skin. Be patient with it, and a lot of, it can have Saturn retrograde can give you double the power to say no to addictive behaviors, to self-sabotaging behaviors, and to recognize them. Retrograde motion gives you a distancing, and kind of you become more introspective, but allows you to distance yourself from certain psychological, let's say, dependencies and weaknesses. See them from a different perspective and gradually work on releasing them. And by the time Saturn moves direct in your 12th house, you might be free from obsessions, from addictions, because you worked extra hard by having to say no consistently during the retrograde period. And it might not be just your own addictions, it can be saying no consistently to not only old habits that are self-sabotaging you, but to things that are, let's say, more someone else that is taking your life force, So Saturn gives this power to do that. All right. And on the more material level, the 12th house is anything connected to hospitals, places of isolation, psychological or mental, and especially mental. Saturn in the 12th house can allow you to deal with some mental health issues, to work through them, to eliminate them gradually again. Probably by next year, you'd feel more and more released by that. On the more material level, it's anything to do with relocations to foreign places that you need to work extra hard to, or any work connected to hospital, to the imaginative, to spirituality. If someone is trying to meditate, it might feel they need to put extra efforts, but Saturn gives you the perseverance. So if you want to meditate, you can deepen your meditation practices now. You might find that you're not progressing as fast as you want, but believe me, you'll see the results when Saturn is out of your 12th house, where sudden liberations and openings into other dimensions can happen and other states of consciousness. So what Saturn is doing in this 12th house is really reworking your subconscious, all the dirt, all the pain there, all the gathered hurts from this life and past lifetimes, and it might be even happening in almost subconscious way. In your dream life, you might be revisiting a lot the past, dreaming repeated dreams of the past. This is a psychological release that your soul is doing. It's not nightmares that you're having, just it's something that you're processing internally, actually. And it's a good thing. I was constantly dreaming of the past when Saturn was retro in my 12th house. It's like the same. It's like, why am I? And I realized what are the things I haven't let go that hurt me too much 20, 30 years ago, because they kept coming back in my dreams. So pay attention to those for the next 5 months, and know that even without doing anything, it's being released for you. And also you can be doing it on a conscious level as well. by thinking a lot about the past and preparing for the future by researching, studying. It's a fantastic time to dig deep into some exploration, research, study before you start something new next year. All right, and then Mercury is moving into your 4th house on the 13th. So it will improve situations regarding home, family, place of living, some new beginnings there. It can make easier to move home or to communicate with your family. If there are some complications in your relationships with your family and loved ones, they can start being resolved. A lot more dynamic energy around your home and personal life, but in a positive way. Then there is a full moon in your 10th house on June the 14th, which means that you can see the results of some career project, maybe some recognition that can come. If you've been working hard on something, you can see fulfillment, or you can see the results, whether they're good or no, whether to change something there. There can be a spotlight on you, maybe career-wise, or even if you're not working, something that comes to fruition and culmination regarding your social public image, your reputation, your career as well, with authority figures or institutions, something that gets the green light or the go ahead. And Venus does a number of conjunctions with planets of excitability and newness, Uranus and the North Node, Rahu, in your 3rd house in the period of the 11th to the 19th of June. New relationships can appear, like more like on the new contacts. You can join new groups online, you can buy new laptops, you can get excited about new vehicle or some new trip to do, some new hobby, or to try something new, because 3rd house is skills and interests that you've never tried before. And maybe a new person can introduce it to you to get it excitable, some unusual and exciting conversations and people in your everyday environment. But there is a catch there, because Saturn is also square Venus. So you have to be a bit more cautious. Don't go blindly and check your information. Some new exciting information or something new to study can appear as well that gets you all going. And you're like so excited, but you have to be a bit more cautious as well with Saturn and plan better. And then all those aspects, change, and the final aspects of Venus are quite positive. So there you go, guys. And Venus enters your 4th house at the end of the month on the 23rd. So again, even more emotional inner peace comes. You feel more settled. Good time to do anything beautiful around your home, to connect with loved ones, with relatives, to have some pleasant time in a more private environment, to take care of your soul as well in some ways. So thank you so much. And by the way, Jupiter continues to be with Aries, with Mars in your 2nd house. So financial expansion, money comes in a lot more, money goes out a lot more, but you're really expanding what is possible financially for you, like a belief system as well. Thank you.